that all men have inalienable rights to think freely, to talk freely, to write freely their own opinions, and to counter or utter or write upon the opinions of others.
This is from the Creed of the Church of Scientology. Hey, everybody. I'm Holly, aka the ScientoloGeek, and welcome to the 15th episode of Going Over the Student Hat series. Today is the start of a 16-page HCO bulletin, and this is probably going to go on for the next 4 or so episodes. So, anyway, I hope you guys can stick through this. Because, to be honest, I'm getting sick of the student hat. I'm getting sick of demonstrations, clay tables, pink sheets, checkouts, all this crap. And I just want to move on to something different. But I can't move on to something different until we finish this. Until we've completely gone through the check sheet, shall we say. If you guys want any of the access to this stuff, the HCO bulletins, policy letters, all that, flag orders, base orders, whatever, feel free to email me at scientologeek@gmail.com, or you can go to the link in the description below for my Discord server, join there, or you can hit me up there with a valid Gmail address. If you guys are interested, I put out some of my stuff on Spotify. It's mainly just the interviews and like the first 3 student hat videos that have been edited up a little and pitched down so that I can get them to match the modern formatting I have today. If you guys are interested, that link's in the description too. So, without further ado, let's get started. This is the HCO Bulletin of the 30th of January, 1973, revised the 16th of May, 1984, called Method 9 Word Clearing the Right Way. This cancels a board technical bulletin from the 30th of January, 1973, called Method 9. This references the M9 picture book, which will be issued in due time as part of a special course, and the bulletin called Clearing Words.
Word Clearing Series 46RB was the first HCOB which gave the full and correct use and handling of M9. It's been revised here to include developments on how one goes about clearing a word. This revision is on page 7, section 7, Clear the Word. There are 5 other changes, all minor. Earlier write-ups on this subject, not by myself, stated that the person's misused that word on which he stumbled. This is not the case. It's only occasionally the word on which he stumbles that is misunderstood. Usually, as was covered long since in study tech, it is the earlier word or symbol which has caused the stumble, or twitch, or blink, or omit, or mispronunciation, or what have you. Historical. Method 9 word clearing was first developed in a pilot project which sought to teach people to read who were not reading in their native tongue. The first versions of M9 were not correctly written up, but the technology nevertheless began to spread in use. It was found that not only non-English students didn't know what they were reading, but as the educational standards of the culture deteriorated, it was found that people reading in their native tongue could benefit with the use of M9.
And here he says, education is going down the shithole.
It was then found that college students could not get through M9, and the latest survey had demonstrated that 31 school teachers taken at random throughout the school systems flunked M9 on their common reading materials. What has apparently happened here is that we have drifted down in literacy to a point where the culture can't read or hear.
That is way too exaggerated.
In a technical culture such as this one should not ask further why it is failing.
Yeah, because if one asks why it is failing, they'll find out that it's not your reason and that the answer is much more complicated.
Because there are not enough supervisors to personally M9 all the people on the planet, much less a medium-sized class,
shows that your church isn't really booming.
It has to be done on a turnabout basis by the students themselves. This caused a difficulty with M9 because one was asking students who couldn't read to understand how to do the Method 9, which would find the things which prevented them from reading. Here again we have the chicken and egg problem. Therefore, the procedure has been demonstrated in a picture book which will be issued in due time as a part of a special course. This picture book shows the student how to M9 another student, and he can, after being drilled by the supervisor on the picture book. So this has also been solved. M9 is probably the top key method of word clearing today. You'd be utterly amazed to find somebody who habitually reads Western stories cannot pass an M9 on them.
Doubt that. Otherwise, why would they be habitually reading Western stories if they actually didn't understand it?
He sees he mounted his roan, a type of horse, and he understands from this he roamed around the mountains.
No. I don't think anyone who can actually read that and thinks that's what that means.
He's become so accustomed to not ising his inability to understand what he's reading that he thinks it's ordinary. Isn't that the way everybody reads?
No, that's... No. If you think that's how everybody reads, then everybody's clearly illiterate.
M9 brings it home forcefully to him that he really doesn't understand what he's reading.
No, you mean you forcefully tell him that he doesn't understand what he's reading, even if he does.
This is not why one uses it. One uses it to produce someone who can read, but like one of the English teachers who was M9'd on his own text, although he may begin with hostile protest that of course he knows what he's reading, he soon gets into the real reality of it and sees where he's at. His willingness to continue then has already been secured. It'll be found that the simple things are the main things on which he stumbles. Thus, M9ing is usually preceded by M8, as covered in the new basic comprehensive reading course. This shows him via picture book how to use a dictionary and gets him to define the simple words of the language. Commas, semicolons, even capital letters will be found to be commonly misunderstood.
Really, capital letters are misunderstood? Jesus Christ. Punctuation, I don't think, has to be defined. We know how to use punctuation, at least a decent amount of the population. If you don't, then yeah, you do have to understand it, but I don't think you need to look in the dictionary to see how a comma is used.
The usefulness of M9 has gone then from a way of spotting the points where a foreign language student is falling down to detecting and handling the professors and the rest of the culture. It's an extremely important method of word clearing and should be learned very well. How to learn Method 9. Method 9 word clearing is a way of finding the words a person doesn't understand in a book or other written material by having him read it aloud to the word clearer. It's very simple and precise, and it can be done by students on one another with great success, as well as by a professional word clearer. Method 9 does not require expertise, and it does not require a meter as many other methods of word clearing do. Method 2 word clearing is very similar to Method 9, but it requires the use of a meter to pick up the misunderstoods. The virtue of Method 9 is that, while it's very thorough and effective, it's not restricted in use to those who can operate a meter and who have other expertise needed for Method 2. It can therefore be learned very easily and used very broadly. To teach M9, the supervisor gets the student through the picture book version of M9, which will be issued in due time as part of a special course.
We already know this, you don't need to keep saying that.
And drills him so that he can do Method 9 word clearing and he can M9 other students. One can also learn how to do it all by himself by going through this picture book and this HCOB. Misunderstood words. A student, when reading by himself, often does not know he has gone past misunderstood words, but whenever he does go by misunderstood words, he will have trouble with what he's reading. A misunderstood word keeps a person from duplicating what the written materials actually say. It causes the communication formula to go out. A word can be misunderstood in many different ways, and it's important that these different types of misunderstoods are known to the person doing Method 9. A word can be misunderstood because of a false or totally wrong definition, an incorrect definition, an incomplete definition, an unsuitable definition, a homonymic, one word which has two or more distinctly separate meanings, definition, a substitute or synonym, a word which has a similar but not the same meaning, definition, a no or omitted definition, a rejected by the person himself, usually due to a false datum, definition, or an invented by the person himself, usually due to a false datum, definition. This is covered more fully on HCOB, the misunderstood word defined.
I hated reading that.
If a person has habitually gone past many misunderstoods in his reading or his education, which most everybody in this present culture has,
Way to speak for everybody when you don't know shit.
not only will his ability to read be lowered, but also his intelligence.
Prove it.
What he himself writes and says won't be understood, what he reads and hears he won't understand, and he will be out of communication. The probability is that he will have sunk back to the first dynamic,
Which is the self.
The world will look like a very peculiar place to him, he will feel that he is not understood, how true, and life will look a bit miserable to him. He can even appear to others to be criminal.
Misunderstood words equals criminal. Equals that you look like a criminal to others. Makes no sense. That's a complete non sequitur.
At best, he will become a sort of robot or zombie. So you see, it's very important to clear misunderstood words. Lack of the ability to communicate probably,
meaning you don't know the answer, meaning I'm pulling something out of the crack of my ass and making shit up again.
Lack of the ability to communicate probably underlies the causes for the current drug culture.
Not at all. Doubtful.
You will be amazed that somebody who appears to be a criminal idiot all of a sudden begins to look comparatively like a genius after he's been M9'd. Why Method 9 works. A student who understands all the words on the page he's reading will be able to read the page aloud perfectly.
It has nothing to do with that.
He will feel bright and alert and will fully understand what he reads. But when a student passes a word or symbol he doesn't understand, the misunderstood causes an interruption of his voice or physical beingness. His voice may change, or he may stumble on a word, or make a face, or squint his eyes, or react in some other way.
Which is all normal when reading. and does not mean it's a misunderstood word.
This is easy to understand if you remember that a person can go blank after he passes a word or symbol he doesn't understand. He may make a mistake in his reading right there at the point of the misunderstood, or he may continue reading past the misunderstood and make a mistake on a later word or symbol. He will feel duller, and he will try to make up for the dull feeling by reading with more effort. This will always be expressed by a non-optimum action of some kind, which must be noted and handled at once by the word clearer. A non-optimum reaction is anything the student does besides read the page easily, naturally, and perfectly. Examples of some of the non-optimum reactions that may show up are student adding a word or leaving a word out or changing a word in the sentence he's reading, student stumbling on a word or saying it incorrectly, student pausing or reading more slowly, student frowning or looking uncertain, student going stiff or tensing a body part such as squinting his eyes or tightening the grip of his hands or biting his lip or some other physical reaction, student reading with effort, student reading with a glib robotic attitude, which is how he gets after he has been forced to read correctly by someone who doesn't know anything about misuse. Other manifestations can occur.
So this leads it up to the interpretation of the supervisor. Great.
Note that the above is not a complete list of reactions, but is intended to give an idea of what to look for. In all fairness, one can stumble when reading if he is trying to read in a dim light, or if he's having eye trouble, or the print or handwriting or penciled corrections in the text are very hard to make out.
Thank God you provide some reasonableness.
Thus, it's necessary to do M9 word clearing only in bright light, and if the fellow is supposed to be wearing glasses, he should be wearing glasses, and the material being M9 must not contain smudges and deletions itself. All possible reasons why you cannot see the text and unclear text must be removed. Otherwise, the student will simply say he couldn't see it, or the light was bad, or some other wrong why. Anytime the person makes an error in his reading or reacts in some non-optimum way, a misunderstood will always be found before that point, or sometimes at that point itself. Example. The student is reading the page aloud. He reads, Raymond walked home slowly and thoughtfully, then he frowns. The other student, who is M9ing him, says, That's it. Is there some word or symbol there that you didn't understand?
That's it is a very common phrase used in Scientology when someone flunks something, and in this case when someone's displaying physiological reactions to a misunderstood word. But that's it is clearly written down in Hubbard materials, and if you don't say that's it, that's a problem.
If the student wonders why he was stopped, the word clearer tells him what reaction he noticed. The student looks over what he's read. He feels uncertain about the word slowly. He tells this to the word clearer, and the word slowly is looked up in the dictionary and used in sentences until the student fully understands it. When the word that was misunderstood is located and cleared, the student will brighten up and will begin reading clearly and correctly once again.
So, what did we cover today? We learned that Method 9 was developed in a pilot project for those who couldn't read in their native language. Hubbard claims that college students couldn't get through it, probably because it's a big waste of time. He also says 31 teachers taken at random throughout the school systems flunked M9 on common reading materials. First off, he doesn't cite the school systems nor the teachers that he tested this on. And the fact that he thinks 31 teachers is a good determination of the sample size of teachers shows you his quote-unquote research. He says, we've drifted down in literacy to a point where the culture can't read or hear. Then how did it get to where it was without you? People who habitually read Westerns can't pass M9s, says the man who wrote Westerns. He's saying that supposedly simple things are where people stumble. This can lead to finding that things such as punctuation and capital letters are misunderstood, which boggles my mind, because if someone doesn't even know what a frickin' period does or any of that stuff, then they shouldn't even be probably reading at that level. Misunderstoods cause being out communication. There are many types of misunderstood words, which we've gone over previously. By going past MUs and reading and education, the person's ability to read and intelligence are lowered. Do you have proof of that? His own writing won't be understood. What he reads and hears won't be understood. Again, don't know where he's getting this. He'll perceive life negatively. I mean, yeah, if you don't understand your subjects and you feel stressed out by school or something, then you might be in a little bit of a worse mood. Lack of the ability to communicate probably underlies the cause for the current drug culture. Again, probably, without any actual evidence. He says that there are non-optimum reactions that occur when a student is not easily, naturally, and perfectly reading the page. This puts in an impossible standard for students that just because they aren't perfect at reading, that it automatically means something's wrong and needs to be addressed. These non-optimum reactions occur after a person passes a misunderstood word or symbol. Manifestations are completely normal occurrences from being human, such as yawning, frowning, slouching. Just completely average things are supposedly these big indicators of something being wrong and you having MUs. And the last thing he says that M9 word clearing is only to be done in bright light and under good reading conditions to eliminate all other reasons that the student cannot read the material. That sounds actually fine. If you guys like what I do, feel free to hit subscribe, like, hit that notification bell, make sure my videos are getting to you. Share this with your friends, your family, or any other weird groups that you think may be interested in this. Spread the word of the true craziness of Scientology. And yeah, that's all I got. So I will talk to all of you later. See ya.